Hi guys, welcome back to Too Cool for Middle School. It has been a week basically since I've left the house for any extended period of time. It's been a week since we have been doing remote teaching, remote learning. So I thought I would just catch you up on how that's going so far. I've seen so many great tips for teachers all over Instagram and YouTube and Twitter and Facebook. I mean, we definitely have a lot of options at our fingertips, but all these school closures have really been showing us, at least for me, like the things that are really strong about our infrastructure already and then where all of the holes are. So I teach middle school. I have 2 sections of 6th grade ancient history, and then I have 4 sections of 8th grade English. And all of my students have a school issued Chromebook, and at the beginning of the year, somehow they found out like if everybody had Wi-Fi at home, and if they didn't, they like enabled Wi-Fi on those Chromebooks. So I'm already way ahead of the game in that my students all have a device and they all have access to Wi-Fi. For the most part, my students' basic needs are met. They do have like food and water and electricity, and I can't say the same for everybody's class. So that's really, really difficult. If your kids don't have a device and maybe they don't have Wi-Fi and they just have like bigger issues to worry about right now, then some of this just isn't going to be relevant. I mean, I would even imagine it's the same with some teachers. They might not have like reliable Wi-Fi where they live. They might not have like a desktop at home. Maybe they just had one from school that they always taught from. So expecting the same thing from teachers everywhere and students everywhere is not going to work. And as soon as things do go back to normal, we need to fix a lot of these issues right away. Also, really quickly, I teach in California, and I checked our California Ed Code, and it is possible for kids to go on independent study, but our kids have not gone on independent study. They had like an hour's notice that they wouldn't be coming back the following week, and no paperwork has been filled out by any students or parents or teachers to put all of these kids on independent study. So we can't hold them accountable for grades. Basically, like we can't give them a 0 if they don't do something that we post. And we have a lot of students who were supposed to have accommodations, or they're supposed to have an aid, or any other kind of accommodations, and it's not possible to provide all of those accommodations from afar. So if you're a parent or you're a student and you're like stressed about your grade going down or something, that's not going to happen. And if your schools are still making you keep track of grades or whatever, they're not gonna hold. Laws might vary by state, and then just different principals in different districts are all doing things differently. But I'm very thankful to my district that they're being very reasonable in this time and not really focusing on the actual grades and scores and points, but just on making sure that students still have access to learning and content and to their teachers as much as they can. Okay, so all of that being said, that's kind of the situation right now. I also have a video that I made right when we went into this situation for my students, just kind of talking about how the best thing we can do right now is just try to continue to do the right thing even when we're not being forced to, and to try to continue to learn while we've got this time. And so I'm going to be putting out content, and I hope that they are taking advantage of that. So here's my situation. I have about 210 students. I have 2 different grade levels and 2 different subjects. So I'm planning for both of those. Some of the things that we have been doing all year long and that I've been doing for a couple of years have come in really handy. So first of all, one thing that is just very easy to use and free to use is Google Classroom. So at the beginning of every school year, I have my students join Google Classrooms. I have separate ones for each period, and students just enter a code in class, and so that's one of the first things we do at the beginning of the school year, and I put lessons and links and assignments and materials and all kind of stuff there. If you haven't already used Google Classroom, you could make one for your students. Like, let's say you have just like an elementary school class of like 28 students. You could just take all of their email addresses, if they have email addresses, and put them all in and invite them to your Google Classroom, and then they would be able to see everything that you post. You're also able to invite parents and they can see everything that's on there as well. So it's just nice to have that little hub, and mine is always very organized. I have mine organized by different topics. So for my 6th grade history classes, there's like all of the stuff for ancient Egypt and ancient China and ancient India. And for last week, I just made a topic that was called remote learning. The other thing that I've been doing for a couple of years now that works really well is providing daily Google Slides for my students. I have a whole separate video on this that I can also link, but it's just a Google Slides presentation. I update it every day with the classwork and homework that we're doing that day. And all you need to do is send the link to students or parents one time, and every time you update it, they get to see that. It's really nice to have just like one slide per day, and then they can like click back and see all of the other days, see if there was anything that they missed. You can add hyperlinks to any of your words. So if I put on mine, like watch this YouTube video, I can just link the YouTube video to that word. Kids can just click on it. Sometimes I put Bitmojis in there, whatever. So those are really, really useful. And my students can check those at any time. So even though all of my students have access to Google Classroom and they have access to those Google Slides and they have a device and they have Wi-Fi, it looks like about half of my 6th graders are still going onto Google Classroom and doing the assignments that I posted, and maybe a third of my 8th graders are. So I know they can access this stuff, but a lot of them are not, and there's nothing that I can do about that. One downside that I've always noticed but is really apparent now is, for me, I don't have a list of all of the parent emails for all of my students. Like, I could go into our online system and go to each student and go to each of their information pages and scroll down to like parent contacts and highlight and copy and paste all of the parent emails into an email, but I'm not gonna do that for 200 kids, maybe 400 parents. Definitely not doing that. So I have emailed all of my students to try to get their attention that way. I have posted things on Google Classroom. I've updated the Google Slides that are supposed to be saved in their bookmarks. And I've also been tweeting all of our lessons on Twitter because some of the parents are on Twitter. But again, like that's what I can do. And if kids don't log on, there's just really nothing I can do about it. So you do have to be cool with just like putting stuff up that a lot of kids are never gonna look at and aren't ever gonna do. And you can't hold them accountable when they don't do it. So you just have to be fine with that. So for the first week of actual lessons, I was just kind of defaulting to like what I normally do on a sub day. I didn't want to overwhelm my students too much because they have 7 classes. I remember what it was like to take like just a few online classes at a time, and it's kind of hard to keep up with everything. So I didn't want to like inundate them and overwhelm them with new things. So I just stuck to typical activities and assignments that we kind of always do if I ever have a sub. So we already had a scheduled day off on Monday, so I didn't assign them anything for Monday. Google Classroom is an app also, by the way, so you can see it on your phone. I just posted a question for each day, and then when I like explained the question, I just told them what to do for each day, and then I just wanted them to fill in that question so that I was able to see who was responding. So I just linked Flocabulary videos for them. I've had the school-wide subscription for quite a while. That is expensive. It costs like $2,000 for a school. But honestly, for curriculum that is K-12 and covers every single content area for your entire school and all of your teachers, that's actually really, really cheap. So that is just kind of a matter of like trying to convince your administration to spring for it. But let me see, I'm gonna look at my 6th grade English. Did I say 6th grade English? I mean 6th period English. So I have a post for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then one assignment that they're gonna start next week and do for the next 2 weeks. So let's see. They just watched a Flocabulary video, and then I assigned them all of the activities that go with those videos, but they could choose how many that they wanted to do. And then they were just supposed to answer a question about how they were doing. So Flocabulary is great. I've raved about it for years. I love it. It's definitely good for online learning. And if you have your Google Classrooms already set up, then you can just import those into Flocabulary, and then all of your students will have access. If you do like the light subscription, which I used to do, you don't have the capability of pushing things out to students. You'd have to like print it for them, or you like watch the videos in class. So at the moment, that's not going to be very useful to you. You would definitely want to go with the school-wide subscription. So for my English classes, we did a lot of like vocabulary lessons and stuff like that that we didn't have as much time to focus on during the school year. And it was just something kind of easy to put out there. So whatever platform you've already been using, like if you used Brain Pop a lot, or Newsella, or ListenWise, or anything that your kids are just already familiar with, give them something that they're already familiar with so they're not having to learn something new for every single class, every single day. I don't think this is the time to try out like a ton of new platforms. I mean, we're gonna have to try some new things for sure, but like I'm trying to ease into that. So the other thing that I added to each lesson was a YouTube video like this, where I just briefly explained the lesson for the day. So sometimes I do that when I have a sub, especially if it's like an unexpected sub. Usually what I'll do is I'll just take like my phone camera and I'll just film like a quick video explaining to them what to do for the day, and then I can just put that directly onto Google Classroom. I remember once Jensen threw up all over the place on the way to work, and I wasn't planning on having a sub, and I had to like scramble, and someone just had to cover my class, and I couldn't like write sub plans. So I was just like in my car, I was like, okay guys, today you are gonna go on this. I've just assigned vocabulary to you. Go do this lesson. Da, da, da. Okay, see you later. Bye. So you can pretty easily do something like that. I already had a class YouTube channel that I've used for a couple of years. I just kind of put random stuff on there. Mostly just like when we've won the Flocabulary shout out contest and we needed a place to like house the video so I could send them the link and stuff like that. So since I already had that and I already have a camera, this is a Canon T5i, Rebel T5i, and I make videos all the time. So this is something I'm already very comfortable with. I just figured, okay, I can do that for my students, and I just edit on iMovie. I don't do anything fancy, and I just uploaded that to our class YouTube channel, and then you can embed like YouTube videos within Google Classroom as well. So everything was all kind of right there for them, and everything is familiar. My students watch YouTube videos all the time, so they're very comfortable with this platform. So they can check their daily slides, which they're already used to doing. They can go on Google Classroom, which they're already used to doing. They can do some vocabulary activities, which they're already used to doing, and then just hear from me like this what the plan is for the day. So that was not too hard to set up, but then I'm like, okay, I've put out this stuff for them. Now I want to hear back from my students. So some people are doing Zoom meetings, some people are doing like Hangouts or Meet. There are like pros and cons to all of those platforms. Again, I have like 200 and something students. Obviously, they're not all going to come on to a live chat or whatever if I do that, but it's going to be a lot of kids, and it's kind of hard to just like let everybody know that that's happening. Like if you just have one class, you have an elementary school class, and you can let all the parents know or let all the students know that you're going to do a Zoom meeting at whatever time. I think that's going to be really effective for you. And some of my colleagues have tested that out, and it's good. With Zoom, if like everybody's trying to talk at once, it gets a little bit difficult. So what one of my colleagues is doing is she made a schedule where 6 kids can sign up at a time to do a Zoom meeting with her, and they can see like who else is signing up for that slot. So if they want to talk like with their friends on that slot, then they can do that, which is pretty fun. So it would be nice to have them in like smaller groups. It's going to be a ton more work for her. I think they're like 10 or 15 minute slots, but definitely an effective way to connect with your students. And she has half the amount of classes as I do, and I think she has around like 90 students, but still 90 divided by 6 is still a lot of sessions. So I don't know how long she'll continue to do that, but I think that's a really good idea, especially if you have a smaller class where, you know, maybe if you did like 5 meetings, you could get to everybody. I've been doing Zoom meetings with like other adults for things. It works great. It's very cool. I'm glad we have that platform. I might also just try Hangouts and Meet with my students as well. So on Friday, I tried to do a YouTube Live just because that's a platform I'm already familiar with. Students are already familiar with it. They don't need like a code. They don't even really need a link. They can just go to the YouTube channel where they've already been watching things and just type in any questions that they have, questions or comments, and I'm able to answer them right there. And then I'm also able to save that video to the same channel that they've already been checking every day. So like, again, I'm just trying to keep things as streamlined as possible. But the school issued Chromebooks that we gave them do block YouTube Live. So most of them were not able to get in. I didn't realize that would happen. So some kids were able to go on like their home device or go on a phone or whatever and use a different account, and then they were able to get in. So I was able to talk with like 30 of them, and that was nice. But because of the restrictions, it's probably going to be better to do Hangouts or Meet or whatever, or Zoom. So we'll try that next week. So, you know, we're just testing different things out. Another thing that I might use YouTube Live for though is to just like continue doing the daily lessons for them, because I mean, I've got to film this on my camera and then edit it and export it and upload it, which is fine. Like, I kind of enjoy that process, and I needed something to do for those first couple of days. But it would be really easy to just open my laptop, do a YouTube Live explaining the lesson, and then just leave it there. So kids could come on and like ask questions if they wanted to, but they really wouldn't need to. The video would just still be there. It wouldn't be quite as like polished or whatever, but I mean, who cares? So I'll probably switch over to that style of video, because it's going to be tough to pump out 10 mini YouTube videos every week for my students. Plus I'm still trying to make some for this channel. So I will probably switch over to some YouTube Live videos, but I'm glad that I have that option. The other really cool way to hear from my students was through Flipgrid, and this is something that they're also very used to. I think they get a little bit like Flipgridded out by my school, because we ask them to do Flipgrids for like everything. But in this situation, it's so perfect. And Flipgrid is free and it's very safe. You don't need like parent permission or anything like that for Flipgrids. You make a grid. So if you teach elementary, you just need one grid. I have like a million right now in my Flipgrid account, but I just made 2 new ones. So one was for 8th graders, one was for 6th graders. I don't care about dividing it up by class period right now, because this isn't going to be graded anyway. And then you put a topic inside the grid. And so there's usually a topic already in there for you. And it's just like a hello, introduce yourself one. I always edit that one and just change it up a little bit. So I put in specific questions, just like, how are you doing? What's one good thing about being home all the time? What's a difficult thing? How are you staying motivated? Stuff like that. And you can put a little picture like for your topic, and then you can also make it like a GIF or a GIF or whatever. And I always like to do that. It's just kind of fun. So then students can make their own video just like from their Chromebook, or they can even do it from their phone. They can like add editing and stuff to it if they want to. They can put little stickers on it. I've had some kids who don't like to be on camera just like use like a stuffed animal kind of like as a puppet for their videos. I give them tips about like facing a window for good light so that they look as cute as they can, all that kind of stuff. So for me, it's great to get to watch their Flipgrid videos back, and then all the other kids can see them as well. So that's a cool way to just connect, and they can kind of do it on their own time. That was another thing about like the Zoom meetings or Google Hangouts or whatever, is like if all of their teachers are doing like a Zoom per day, I don't know if we're like overlapping. I haven't gotten to really talk to all of the other staff yet. It's just been like a crazy week. We're all supposed to do like an optional Zoom meeting on Monday, but yeah, like we definitely cannot continue to do like a schedule as usual with 7 different periods, and we have a rotating schedule, and it would just be a disaster. Like, that is not an option to continue our typical schedule. So we are not doing that, but yeah, like, I don't know. I'm thinking just like weekly, we'll do live check-ins, and then I'm gonna just start Flipgrid Fridays. So they'll do a Flipgrid for me each Friday. Oh, and with Flipgrid, you just have to put in like the student's email domain. Okay. So yours is probably like at students.randomschool.edu or whatever, and that's how they have access, but like nobody else can see your Flipgrid videos besides them, just the people like in your grid. So it's not public, which is why you don't need like parent permission, special permission or anything for those. And then the thing about video files is they're just so huge, like it takes a long time. for me to upload these videos and then download them and then export them. Like, video files are just gigantic. They're really hard to email or anything like that. So on Flipgrid, they can just make them right there and just post them immediately, and so they don't have to do any like sending.
Mommy, what's this supposed to do?
I think it's supposed to hold a camera.
That
one's Daddy's. Yeah.
No, not Daddy's.
So anyway, yeah, those are the main things that I've been using just because they are things that we're already familiar with. So if you already use Seesaw or BrainPop or Canva or whatever platform your kids are already used to, I would say stick with that and just maybe try like one new thing per week, but don't overwhelm them if you can help it. And don't overwhelm yourself if you can help it. Like, this is not the time when you need to like go from a 0 to a 10 on the technology scale. Like, if you're already at a 5, just be at a 5. You may have to go up to a 6 to handle some of this new stuff, but we're all overwhelmed right now. We're all working from home. If you have your own kids and your own pets, goodness.
Mommy, stop without other people's.
Okay. Your own people that you're concerned about. Like, this is just a difficult time. So continue putting up things for your kids to engage with, but also give yourself a break. What are you doing? You want down?
No.
Okay, I've got to go get this kid outside. Thank you. But I hope that's somewhat helpful. I'm sure you can tell that I'm a bit overwhelmed at the moment, and we're all just trying to do the best we can, but these are the things that have worked for me so far. I'll make a separate video about the lessons that we're doing next week, but my 8th graders are going to start a 2-week project on a novel, and then my 6th graders are going to start a 2-week project that's a document-based question about Ashoka for ancient India, so I'll talk about those later. Alright guys, hang in there. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.
Mommy, you go to walk.
Yep, let's go on a walk. Let's go put pants on, please.